We got to break this down, you guys. The market is always evolving. It's always changing. And the sooner you adapt and understand what I'm going to share with you in this video, the faster you can grow your business. And if you don't, you're going to be like one of those people that end up shutting down their business, hitting burnout, and then moving on to a new venture. How do I know this? Well, it's exactly what I did 4 years ago. I hit a crazy burnout phase because I didn't adapt to the market, and looking back on it, was the best thing to happen to me, but it was also one of the most stressful moments of my life. It was actually more stressful than starting a business. When I first started, I had nothing. I had no money. I just went in credit card debt and invested in courses, coaches, mentors to figure out how to do stuff. And this time during the burnout was way, way, way more difficult than that. And I learned a lot of things during that time. And one of the most important things is the market is always constantly evolving. So I want to break this down for you in this video. Maybe a little bit how the other videos are, raw, uncut, just straight to the point, giving you guys some facts, some lessons I've learned along the way. And if you really look at it, let's take, for example, I started back towards the end of 2017, technically like the beginning of 2018 is when I first formed my LLC. And at the time, you could run Facebook lead ads and get leads for around $2 and scale businesses tremendously fast then. I always think, I'm like, man, if I just knew what I know now back then, I would have made hundreds of millions of dollars. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. But what I want to talk about with that is the transition from how marketing's evolved. Back then, people were just trying to learn how to generate leads, like scheduling booked appointments, follow-ups, CRMs. Like those were always a thing, but it wasn't like everybody in the marketing space was just trying to learn like how to run Facebook ads to generate leads. And that worked really well until guess what happened? More people started teaching about it. More people started talking about it. More people got into the space and it got more and more competitive. So what happened? Well, cost went up. Certain people that didn't really have the skill sets and weren't committed to their craft quickly ran out of business. So then there was other things, right? People started running VSLs. And keep in mind, like as we're going through this journey, there's all kinds of, the way I kind of remember it specifically was at first, it was like when we were talking about leads, it was like just basic lead gen ads, right? And then there was the point where people were selling their info online and they would sell like the ClickFunnels style of buy something cheap, upsell, and they would make money on it. Now it's like when people run those type of ads, they're doing them just to get more booked appointments. It's very hard to be profitable in a low ticket funnel unless you're in a very untapped industry is what I should probably say. I digress from that. I want to stick to the point of what I'm getting at with this. We'll talk more about that later on in this video. But same thing with VSLs. When VSLs first became a thing, there wasn't a lot of people doing it successfully. And then once people started doing it successfully, they started teaching other people how to do it. And then those people started teaching other people how to do it. And then it got more and more competitive. I had a friend who made millions and millions running VSLs. That was his main strategy and the main point that he was teaching for the longest time. And he doesn't even run VSLs himself anymore for the current company. And he doesn't teach it to anyone really anymore, unless it's like a untapped industry, because it's so competitive. And that's why, like for me, as a coach, coaching coaches, running a VSL in this industry, every time I've tried, it just burns tens of thousands of dollars. Why? Because it's just the industry that we're in. Now, again, I'm not saying VSLs are dead, but you have to understand which industry you're in and how the competition is. For me, I just get a bunch of people funnel hacking me. And I think, if you really break down and understand like what industry you're in, it's going to be a lot more profitable if you do it the right way. And what I'm trying to get at with all this is there's stages, right? For me, it was lead format I'm talking about client acquisition. There was lead form ads, there was VSLs, because I've ran VSLs very profitable I've ran VSLs very profitable in the past. And then there was the IG funnel, which is where we're going. And that's what I've been teaching for. I've been doing it for a very long time, but I started teaching it probably about 3 years ago. And the cost per results that we're getting now compared to 3 years ago are the same thing that I saw with the lead form ads going to the VSLs increasing as well from there. Everything gets more pricey. And I see a lot of people burning out now. I see a lot of people quitting their businesses and just out of pure frustration because they're not adjusting to the market. And that's really what I want you to walk away with. And the main lesson with what I'm trying to share here with you is the market's constantly evolving. I've noticed this personally. I knew this was going to happen as well, just in general, because I mean, there's multiple layers of the market as well too. Kind of like what I was talking about. There's the way of getting clients, and then there's the offer, and then there's a lot more. But those are like the two main things I look at least. And like previously, before when it was the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels, people were selling like webinars for $2,000. They were selling $997 programs, and they were actually making money doing that. I used to sell a $997 program before I got into high ticket coaching, and I was making decent money at the time doing it. It wasn't like nearly where we're at now, but that was a way of generating good cash at the time. And then what happened? High ticket coaching became a thing. People started getting into high ticket coaching. And now I think there's a big correction in the marketplace. And I think it's going to really wipe out a lot of people that don't know what they're doing. But it's also going to give the people that do know what they're doing a lot of option and a lot of bandwidth to really scale and become an expert in the industry. Gotta have my little Starbucks drink for the day. But I think you're going to see, excuse me, you're going to see a very interesting shift over the next 6 to 12 months. It's kind of like a real estate, right? Like a real estate boom. Like when a real estate crash happens, the people that are prepared for it, the ones stacking cash, doing it the right way, that already know it's going to happen, take advantage of the time. And then they come out 10 times wealthier. Whereas the people that are newbies just getting in the space and act like they know everything, they're the ones that get wiped out. And really, like, the only way to go about it is you have to understand what I'm saying right here and see what's happening, or you have to experience it yourself and be that newbie. It sucks. I was that newbie at a time. I went through it. I went through the coaching crash, if you want to call it, whatever you want to say. But a lot of it just comes down to your industry and your skill set. I see a lot of people in the same space that I am right now shutting down their businesses because they did well at first, but then things change. And it's how do you adapt? That's really the solution, is how do you adapt to what's happening? How do you prepare for what's happening? And I don't mean to come out with this video to like try to scare anybody or anything like that, but like you do need to know there is a shift in the space. Depending on the industry you're in, there will be at some point. So let's say, for example, right now you teach people how to start a phone repair business, right? It's probably super untapped. It's probably super untapped right now, but eventually it's going to get to the point where it's going to get too competitive. All your prices are going to rise, and then you're going to have to figure out what to do. So this video might not be relevant for you now that you think, but if you have this in the back of your mind, it's going to make you very successful in the long run, because I've seen it over and over and over. I've worked with over 2,000 plus coaches at this point, and I see it all the time. I'll see somebody come in, they'll be in a super untapped industry, and they're getting the craziest results. Their ROAS is literally like 10 to 20x plus. It's insane. But what happens is, as they start scaling, other people catch on to it, because you got to be honest, like we're in a space where humans are humans are very intelligent, right? We see someone else making results, and if someone else is burnt out and they're able to do that thing, they're going to go and try to do it. That's just how humans are. And unfortunately, a lot of people just copy shit. And I think that's really what you see is like the people that are exiting this phase right now are the ones that have just copied something previously and haven't actually had the results, that haven't actually had the skill sets to build a legit business. Because like it's hard. It's really hard to build a business. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people don't really talk about that enough, to be honest, because especially on social media, all we see is just, oh yeah, I'm living this lifestyle, man. I'm traveling. I've got everything I need. I got all these cars. I got all this. It's like, dude, grow up. Like if you're falling for that shit, if you're buying into those people, like that's why I don't really promote. I try my best not to promote like the lifestyle, because it brings in the wrong type of clients, first off, but also it's like, dude, I'm not trying to look rich. I'm going to be wealthy. That's my mindset with all of this. And I see it a lot. And I'm not going to name drop anybody obviously on here, but like a lot of people that start making money, you can tell it's newbie money. That's what me and some of my friends, I've got friends that have been doing this for a while, we joke about it and call it newbie money. It's like once you start making really good money, you don't have the lessons to learn, and you go and spend all that money on dumb shit. You buy new cars, you buy new whatever it might be. And for me, it's like I've done that. Again, I can say this stuff because I'm making fun of myself at the end of the day. But like, be smart with your money with this, because like when these markets correct, if you're stacking correctly, you have the bandwidth to continue to ride the wave and get better. Because if you continue to just ride the wave and get better, you're going to come out stronger. So like, for example, with us, I'm not going to go into the entire detail on this video of like what we changed, but we noticed there was a really big shift happening in this industry. We noticed at the beginning of the year. And you know, I was talking to some of my friends, people that have been in the space even longer than I have, and they've said the same thing. So like, we noticed a really big shift going into the coaching of the coaches on the coaches side of stuff since the beginning of this year. And I've really found like every 2 years is kind of like where it happens in a very competitive industry. So we started making changes for what's to come, and we had to rebuild some of the business. And did we take a dip in revenue and cash? Yeah, absolutely. When you rebuild, things aren't going to be the most sexy. Things are going to feel very chaotic, very out of place. But as the rebuild has been coming into play, we really notice the dominoes falling into play now. While other people are shutting down their businesses, our dominoes are falling into place, so that not only can we hit our previous high before, but we can use that as a baseline to continue to grow. And I say that confidently because when you're in a rebuild, mentally it's hard, especially like, you know, when you're going from a super high to a newer low, and then you see yourself going back up to the high. It's very emotional. It's kind of like an emotional roller coaster. But again, like what we do is we look at and make decisions based off KPIs. Are our KPIs in line for what we're trying to achieve? And if they are, amazing. Let's keep going. And that's also been something huge for me as I've grown my business, is getting out of the emotional roller coaster. And again, I'm not perfect by any means. There's definitely times where my emotions run a little bit higher, especially in a business where you're making changes. It happens. But you also have to be the best at what you do. And I say that because you have to be confident in the decisions that you make as a CEO, as a business owner. As I've been making changes inside my business, there are people that I've talked to that have told me not to do certain things, and people that I respect, and I know they've, generated more money than me. They've grown farther than I have, but at some point you have to trust yourself. And that's where we made a decision to go with our gut and make the right decision for our business. And it's right on track to where we need it to be right now. After about a 60-day rebuild, it's right on track to where we need it to be. And it's because I've absorbed all the knowledge out there that I needed to, and I still take a lot of knowledge that comes to me, but I essentially take it with a grain of salt. Because not every business is the same. Despite what you might hear online, every business is different. Every person has different advice. If you put 10 billionaires in a room to say, hey, give me advice on my business, you're going to get 10 different advices, and they're probably going to be all completely different. I don't know. I haven't sat in a room with 10 billionaires, so I couldn't tell you. But point being is, you have to understand and trust what you know in the business. And if you don't know enough and you haven't had enough experience, well, then you have to surround yourself with the right type of people. And when you do that, sky's really the limit. And that's why I wanted to really just come on here and talk about in the raw truth of today is like, you guys, anyone that promised you business is just an upward trend is run away from them. They're lying. It's not the truth. The truth is business is higher highs, lower lows. For us, as we're doing this rebuild, our lower low used to be our higher high at this point last year. So to give you numbers, I'm not going to give you our exact numbers right now, but just to give you, because I'm not looking at my KPIs, but to give you an idea, let's say last year our ceiling was, last year at this time we were making, $150K a month. Let's just use monthly, for example. And then this year, that would be our higher high. Let's say last year our higher high, our biggest month was like 150K. It was, I think last year, what at this time? It was probably a little over 200, something like that. But let's just say 100K, 150K for easy numbers, right? Let's say our higher high last year was 150K. Well, this year we've blown past that, and now our lower low is 150K. So when you have a lower low, we're talking like trading terms here, that means your higher high is going to be even more. So that's really like the secret that I found to business is instead of judging your business on your highest months or your highest years, judge it on your lowest, right? So like if you max out and let's say you do 200K in a month, instead of thinking every single month is going to be like that, which it definitely can be, but give yourself a little bit of credit. If your highest month is 200K and then you dip to 150 and then you hit 160 the next month and then 150 again the next month, but previously 4 months ago you were at 80, your new lower low is 150, right? So like I don't judge it off of like, oh, well, this is our biggest month. I do say that in marketing, I'm not going to lie, because, and I hate it. I hate marketing for coaches and info products is one of the most annoying things in the world, to be honest with you, because all people care about are just what your monthly number is. And I think that's the most stupid thing you could possibly do. But I have to market to how people want. And I don't like looking at things on a monthly basis. I like looking at things on a quarterly basis and a yearly basis because I'm thinking way long term. And unfortunately, that's just how a lot of the industry is. They want to see stuff on a month-to-month basis and make the decisions off that and then care about how much money you're making each month and shit like that. And like that's why I got away from, promoting the lifestyle as much as I can, because I just don't like the type of clientele it brings in, because it brings in false hope, and it also brings in, I think the people that are promoting a lot of the lifestyle, I know some of them, they're not really living the lifestyle that they're promoting. So just be conscious of that. But the whole reason I'm creating this video is because what I was saying before is we noticed this trend happening for a while. So what we did was we digested the customer journey and went through and just studied what the customer journey is. And what we found is it's a lot different than what everybody says it is. Most people think it's running one ad and then scaling an ad that's a winner. It's part of it. But the real customer journey for anyone online is it's not just one ad that gets somebody to convert. It's they see an ad, they start scrolling. A couple of days later, they see another ad that has a better angle, they click on it. Then they go back to scrolling. Then a couple of days later from there, they see another ad and they click on it. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe let me just opt in. Let me see what happens from here. And then they don't respond or they don't do anything. And then a month later, they see another ad, or maybe a day later, they see another ad and like, oh, wow, this is speaking directly to me. Let me opt in again. And then they book a call. And then like, oh, well, maybe right now is not the best time. Then a month later, they book another call and they close. That's one example of hundreds. There are some people that come through and they see an ad, they click, they book a call, and they're ready to buy on the spot. It's like less than 5% of the people that come through. And it's just really understanding the customer journey and understanding your ideal avatar and how to grow your business, and not only just grow your business, but continue to feed your business new prospects that have a long LTV in your business. And I'll give you a hint as I hop off on here for potentially the next video that we do, depending on what you guys like. If you like this type of video, let me know. If you're like, yo, I don't like it, go back to the Google Docs and Looms, I can definitely do that. But the tip I would give you is, if you want to have a business grow long-term and be successful, stop focusing just on the front end. The front end is very important, but focus on the LTV of your customer. If you can grow your LTV from average LTV from 5K to 25K, you're going to be a lot more successful in business. So that's the tip I'll leave it with you. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, I'll see you in the next video.